From fans dying to know if he's going to be back to reprise his role, to potentially taking years for the fourth film in the franchise to get released, here's what's really going on with Tom Holland and the MCU. With the MCU, there are always a bunch of exciting projects in the works, but currently stuck in development is one of the most highly anticipated movies featuring the famed web-slinger. Of course, I'm talking about Spider-Man 4. The 3 solo Spider-Man movies starring the infamous Tom Holland are some of the best ones to come out of the MCU, and naturally, fans are pretty darn hungry to see what's next in Spidey's chapter. Now, as the project takes its steps toward production, the fans have a bunch of questions in mind, like, when is it going to be released, who's going to be directing it, and most important of all, is Tom Holland even coming back for Spider-Man 4? Over a 7-year journey, the British actor has brought the role of Peter Parker to life, in not just his own trilogy of films, but also in the form of massive crossover appearances in other MCU movies. He's gained massive popularity over the years for portraying Peter Parker just how Stan Lee envisioned, and it's why he's become a fan favorite to play the superhero. But the fact is that ever since the 3rd film in the franchise, Spider-Man: No Way Home, was released in 2021, there really hasn't been a whole lot of movement on the production front when it comes to the 4th film. Could it possibly be time for a new masked hero to web-sling all around New York? Here's where it gets a little complicated. In a recent interview, Holland claimed that there's definitely a part of him that wants to step away from his beloved fan-favorite role of Spider-Man. Shocking, right? But the actor did have solid reasons for thinking about exiting the franchise. Holland feels that there's a bit of stigma attached to the 4th installment, be it any franchise. Since all 3 of his solo films were such a resounding success with the audience, part of him wants to walk away from this achievement with his head held high and pass the baton on to the next lucky chap that gets to play the character. I mean, it definitely makes sense. But then again, Holland has been phenomenal as Spider-Man, and audiences have responded well to his portrayal, even more so than what Andrew Garfield did with the character. But at the same time, Holland hasn't completely given up on donning his infamous Spidey suit either. He has been very vocal about his love for the character and has hoped to reprise his role in the upcoming film. While the actor claims he'd be lucky to play him again in any capacity, the fans will just have to wait and see what the future holds. I guess as of now, it's unclear whether Tom Holland will return as the MCU Spider-Man or not. In February 2021, the 27-year-old actor spoke about his post-Marvel career plans and made it very clear that nothing about his future as Spider-Man or otherwise was currently set in stone. That doesn't mean we'll never see Holland in the Spidey suit again. It simply means that since he won't be under a Marvel contract anymore, he's not necessarily obligated to come back for any planned films immediately. After a really long time, it looks like the actor is finally going to get a break for himself, and he knows exactly what he wants to do next. And for the time being, it probably doesn't involve a body-hugging web-shooting suit. Instead, Holland claims he wants to take a break from acting and travel the world. Some of the things he's potentially thinking of doing are learning to ski and getting to play golf. If you really think about it, Tom has been playing Peter Parker constantly for the last several years. From Civil War to Avengers, Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame, including his own trio of films from director John Watts. That's no easy accomplishment, and he definitely deserves a break after this grueling schedule. Well, it looks like he's going to have plenty of time to exercise during that break, since Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige has also been rather tight-lipped about Holland's role as Peter Parker, and if we're ever going to see him in character again. While Kevin did confirm that there was material that was being worked on, he didn't quite say anything about Holland's involvement and the status of his contract with the MCU. The president also mentioned that they have big ideas for the next film, and the story is already there, but it looks like the fans will just have to wait and see what happens next, and keep an eye on all developmental news on the Spider-Man 4 front. Having said that, we might not be seeing any Spider-Man movies on the docket for at least the next 2 MCU phases. But it's pretty clear that Kevin and the rest of the Marvel team know that they have a pretty important fan-favorite franchise on their hands, featuring one of the best actors to have played the characters in the history of the MCU. But one additional thing to note here is that contract negotiations with Holland aren't the only thing that's delaying the production of the 4th film. The 2023 writer's strike has also impacted the project. In June 2023, the Uncharted actor confirmed that he has had meetings with the MCU for the new Spidey movie. But all conversations since then have been suspended, in solidarity with the writers, of course. Further building on the discussion, during the premiere of his Apple TV Plus series, The Crowded Room, Holland might have dropped a hint or two for sure regarding his future with the MCU. He claimed that as long as the team is able to do justice to Peter Parker and the films keep getting better and better with more meaning, he'd be happy to be a part of it. He also said that he'd be stupid to admit that he wouldn't be the luckiest kid alive if he got to do it all over again. But with all the stuff going on, we'll just have to be patient and count the days until we have a release date. Producer Amy Pascal also assured the fans that once the strike is over, Sony intends to start working on the script for Holland's next movie as the masked web-slinger. Is that confirmation of the actor coming back for the role? Well, not exactly. When explicitly asked about Tom's future as Spidey in the next film, Pascal was quick to point out that they are definitely making another movie for sure, but whether it'll feature our friendly neighborhood, lovable Holland, everyone on the Marvel front is remaining tight-lipped about it. Well, it's still very, very early stages and a classic case of bad timing. But currently, Spider-Man 4 has no release date, and there is no confirmation on the lead actor playing Peter Parker. Although the movie is definitely happening, Sony Pictures hasn't been able to announce when the film could potentially hit theaters. It might not be too long until the title is out. But as for the actual movie, there's a high likelihood we might not be able to see it for the next couple of years. Yep, sad news on that front. I mean, it's definitely not coming out in 2024 since the MCU already has 4 movies scheduled to release that year: Thunderbolts, Captain America: New World Order, Deadpool 3, and Blade. But even these movies haven't dodged the impact of the writer's strike. It was announced in May 2023 that Deadpool 3 was filming, with the writers picketing, but plans for shooting Thunderbolts were entirely suspended. Depending on how things pan out in the next couple of months, with regard to Tom's plans and the writer's strike, it's not entirely impossible to envision Holland reprising his role and lining up for MCU's plans for 2025. With Holland branching out in his career and really digging into other projects as well, including an untitled Fred Astaire biopic and the Crowded Room series by Apple TV Plus, fans have been wondering whether he'll want to come back, to don his now homemade suit and sling right back into action. Thankfully for all of us, Kevin's latest comments about the 4th film seem to be pointing in that direction for sure. Well, since things are very much up in the air regarding Holland coming back as your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, it's probably a good time to re-watch his previous appearances in the MCU, even if it's just to temporarily satiate your appetite for Holland's version of the young hero. And there you have it. From potentially taking years for the next Spider-Man film to get released, to fans dying to know if he's going to be back to reprise his role, that was what really happened with Tom Holland and the MCU.